tonight. Again, we want to thank and we're honored to have the school board candidates with us tonight. I want to express our appreciation to the University of Central Missouri Lee's Summit and the Missouri Innovation Campus for allowing us to be here tonight. We also want to thank the following sponsors for this evening's forum: Life Goal Strategies Group, Rodney Loesch, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, St. Luke's Health System, and Tingle Flooring. So thank you to all of those guys for being sponsors. They've actually sponsored all three forums this year. When you came in this evening, you may have noticed, and I think I saw most everybody having one, but we have the candidate profile booklets, so make sure you grab one of those. It's got questions that were already pre-sent to the candidates. They filled those out, and that's exactly what the answers in there. No, we don't edit the answers. It's what they've sent to us. It's right in there. The forum is being live streamed tonight on the Chamber's YouTube channel and is a recording of the forum and will be posted throughout the rest of the election. So, and then as I said, on our website. A couple of housekeeping items. There is water in the back to my right and to my left, so you can grab a bottle of water. Bathrooms are straight through the doors and to your right. We ask that you please put your cell phone on vibrate or silence so that we don't have any disruptions during the forum tonight. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderators this evening. We have Rick Smetana, the current chair of the Chamber Board of Directors, and Chip Dzinski, past chair of the Chamber's Legislative Committee. Each of these fine individuals are longtime members of the Chamber and leaders in our community. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Rick.
Thank you, Matt. Never been referred to as fine before. I appreciate that. Thank you. Welcome and thank you again for joining us this evening. Before we begin, I would like to outline tonight's format. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will begin in alphabetical order and finish in reverse order if time allows for closing remarks. After each candidate's opening remarks, we will begin the question and answer segment. The questions have been generated by members of the Lee's Summit Chamber of Commerce and you, our audience. There are pens and index cards on the tables in the hall if you would like to submit a question. If you have an index card with a question, hold it up, and our runners, Rodney, raise your hand, and I believe Joe Snook is also maybe helping out too. Nope, just Rodney, so give him to Rodney if you get him. He will grab your question and bring it to our desk. Please understand that we will not ask questions that are directed to a specific candidate or subgroup of candidates, only to all candidates. Candidates should limit their answers to 1 minute. Both the opening remarks and answers to questions will be timed. Once your time has elapsed, please be considerate, honor the allocated time, and finish speaking. Matt Baird is our timekeeper tonight, and he will be positioned where the video equipment is located. Matt, raise your hand. There we go. He will hold up a sign letting candidates know they have 10 seconds remaining to conclude their answer. We have 2 hours and 6 candidates this evening, and we will do our best to ask as many questions as possible. If you have a question that was not asked during the forum, we encourage you to approach the candidates after the forum. If time permits, after the candidates' questions, each candidate will have 1 minute for closing remarks. Finally, we ask respectfully that candidates focus on answering the specific questions. Those who choose to make personal attacks will be warned. A candidate warned 3 times will be dismissed from the forum. And unfortunately, one of our candidates, Kirsti Martin, couldn't attend tonight. She did provide us with a statement, though.
Good evening. This statement is on behalf of Kirsti Martin, candidate for the Lee's Summit R7 School Board. Kirsti is unable to attend tonight, and she is out of town with her daughter, who is undergoing surgery. Kirsti grew up in Lee's Summit, attended its schools, and is now raising her daughter in this community. She is deeply committed to protecting and strengthening the district that helped shape her life. Professionally, Kirsti is a mental health case manager and a licensed private investigator. Her work requires her to listen carefully, verify facts, and ask the right questions before making decisions. This is the same approach she will bring to every vote on the board. As a parent of a child with special needs, Kirsti understands firsthand how school decisions directly impact families. She has been on the other side of the table, and she will carry that perspective with her in this role. Kirsti believes in practical leadership, transparency, and thoughtful decision-making. She is committed to doing the work, asking hard questions, and making decisions grounded in integrity, compassion, and common sense. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Chip. Now we're moving on to our opening remarks. So, in alphabetical order, we will begin with Regina Garrett's opening remarks. After Ms. Garrett, there will be Kamile Johnson, Dr. Johnson, Erica Miller, Rodrick Sparks, then Matt Warton. Regina?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here tonight. I do want to thank the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, Matt Baird for hosting, and also the MIC for providing the venue. Thank you for making the time to come and listen to what we are all about. My name is Regina Garrett. I am up for re-election. I'm asking for your vote on April 7th. Right off on the top of the bat, I want to make a clarification. In my bio, it says that I am a board member of the Rotary. I am not. At the time it was submitted, I was being invited to, and we decided to hold off and wait until after the election. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Again, I'm Regina Garrett, and for 14 years, Lee Summit has been my home. I'm a regular attendee of Journey Church International. Like many of you, I'm a parent with children currently thriving in our schools. From the art rooms and choirs of Lee Summit High School to the classrooms of East Trails Middle School, my journey to this board began with a simple but vital goal: to bridge the gap between the community and our district. Today, as I seek your support for re-election, I am proud to stand on a record of active listening and evidence-based results. Over the last 3 years, we have turned your feedback into action. We launched the Dinner with the Board series, engaging over 200 of you in meaningful dialogue. The collaboration led directly to a new student discipline policy that restricts cell phones during instruction, significantly reducing digital distractions in our classrooms. I have also been a fierce advocate for our educators. I championed the $5.4 million finally given our veteran teachers the credit they deserve for their years of service. We've invested in the future through the Aerospace Academy hangar, providing our students with high-demand career certifications while still in high school. Looking forward, my vision is built on 3 pillars, and we'll get into that in a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Kamile Johnson, and for those of you who don't know me, my doctorate is in pharmacy, just so that you know my background. I am a current school board member, and I am running for 2nd term. I have 2 children in the district, and I've lived in Lee Summit for 17 years. And I came to Lee Summit because I was told this was the best district to be a part of. And even though I didn't have children at that time, I knew this is where I wanted to be for that very reason. And that brings me to my why. Why am I here today, and why am I rerunning? I'm running because I want to ensure that we remain a destination district. So what that means to me, it means that we're ensuring that all of our children, regardless of background or anything, and abilities, have access to all the academic opportunities available to them. It also means that I want to ensure that we are paying staff in LSR-7 those competitive wages so that we can retain and recruit top talent for our district and our children. And as a current board member, I bring you institutional knowledge, I bring you stability, and positive collaborative relationships with staff and the community. The community that I came from back in Philadelphia poured into me. And as I am here in Lee Summit, I want to continue to pour back into a community. And while it is not the same as where I came from, I believe that when you pour back into the universe, it makes everything well, and it makes everything better. And so with that, I want to pour back into this village of Lee Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica Miller.
Well, good evening. I want to say thank you to the Lee Summit Chamber for hosting this 5th and final forum. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening to be with us and learn a little bit more about why we're here. As they said, my name is Erica Miller, and I am excited to be up for re-election. I'm currently on the school board, and I have prided myself for the last 3 years on leading through action. You will find me multiple times a week in the classroom, side by side with students, also supporting our teachers and staff, and just making sure that I'm having a listening ear for any parent that needs support or advocacy for their students. I'm seeking re-election because the work is not done. There's more work to do. And I came to this community 12 years ago for the district, for the schools, and we've loved it here. My daughter, most of you know my story, my daughter, she's dyslexic. And so one of the things as far as her education goes, I needed to be advocating and fighting for her. And thankfully, because of our reading specialists and our incredible teachers, she is thriving. But my kiddo, she shouldn't be the exception. Each and every child should have the resources they need to be successful. And that's why I'm rerunning, because I want to ensure that happens. I've been in this community serving since day one, and I believe that with the school board, it's just another level of service. So I'm excited to continue to serve in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Hello, my name is Rodrick Sparks, and I first would like to thank the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to be able to share. I would like to thank those that are present for also being here and making this sacrifice, and those that are also viewing online. I also would be remiss if I did not acknowledge those that have previously served on the Board of Education. I thank you for your continued attention when it comes to our school district. Well, this is what I would say. Why am I running for Board of Education? It is because I miss the work. I served this community before I was elected by this community. And then I ran again, and I was not successful in that election. But guess what? That did not stop my service. It didn't stop my service because I actually care about every single one of our students. I care about them making sure that their educational experience is what it should be. I'm also passionate about making sure that the opportunities that Lee Summit already have, that we are expanding those opportunities. I'm also passionate about making sure that every kid that leaves our district, no matter if they are deciding to go to a 2- or 4-year university, or if they decided to go to the military, or if they're going right into the workforce, that we are actually equipping them with everything that they need to be successful in life. I want you tonight to listen to all that is being said. Listen to those that have records. 4 of us have records. And some of us have records that actually stood by what we said the first time. And so I'm here to tell you that I'm not just talking the talk, but I've walked the walk. And I thank you again for being here and to listening to all of us on this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Warton.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to say hello, introduce myself. I'm really glad that you all took the time to come here tonight, invest in the civic process, and just give us this platform to talk about our values and things that are important to us, and why we're choosing to jump into this race and to engage and hopefully serve this district. Right. So I also need to thank my wife and my kids for kind of putting up with all the events and everything else, and they've been incredibly supportive, and so I'm just appreciative of that. So that's a little bit about me. I have 4 kids. Jack goes to Lee Summit High School, Bella goes to East Trails, Piper goes to Sunset Valley, and then I've got a 9-month-old. So I'm fairly invested and committed into this district right now, and frankly for the next 19 years. Professionally, I work in the building technology world. So think security, think life safety systems, things like that. So I've got some experience engaging with the K-12 procurement process, kind of how those systems work and things like this. But that's nice, but that's not really why I'm doing this. I think the best outcomes that we see in education come from a strong partnership between parents, the community, and educators, right? And so that's a big piece of what I'm very interested in driving, is how can we bring more parental engagement, more community engagement into the education process so that we can improve that. I also think that from a leadership standpoint, the most effective leadership comes from a balance of folks that have a ton of experience, like all the folks here, except for me, right? So I'm a bit of an outsider, but I think that's important, right? I bring outside experience. I bring outside leadership and consulting experience, and I'm not afraid to ask maybe what might be on the surface a dumb question or an ignorant question. Say, hey, can you explain why we do things this way? So I think those 2 things, driving parental engagement and being that outsider to say, hey, let's understand why we do this, and maybe there's a better way. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your opening remarks. We will now move into the question and answer segment, beginning with Matt Warton. Audience members, if you have not submitted your questions, please do so now. Mr. Warton, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing Lee Summit R7 over the next 5 years, And what specific actions should the board take to address it?
So I think one of the biggest challenges that we are facing now in light of, the Jackson County property assessments is some budget-related things. And, Prop C is a very big topic with a lot of different perspectives and opinions on whether it should pass, whether it should not. I know that the school's budget is made up roughly 70% of our local taxpayers. And so we pay, local taxpayers share a lot of that burden. The state of Missouri ranks 50th in per student contribution from a budgetary perspective. I think that's a problem. The federal government's falling short in terms of its funding for special education programs and things like that. I think those are significant concerns. So there's a challenge because we've continued to go back to the taxpayer, the local taxpayer, and ask them to continue to push money into the schools. And look, schools are, listen, this is a big deal, right? Public education matters a lot. We also need to be thoughtful about the taxpayer, but I also think we can lobby both the state and the federal government to make sure that they're doing their part to help us.
Rodrick?
So what I will say is the biggest crisis that I believe that our district is facing is the pressures on the outside that does not involve education. Every kid that walks into our building, they are walking in to learn. And when we are dealing with outside politics, when we're dealing with things that is not actually teaching kids how to read, teaching them how to write, those are the things that I believe is a big issue for our educational system. Funding is a problem. When you have Jeff City cutting our funding, we have no choice but to unlock the revenue that Prop C will provide for us of $4 million. Right now, LSR-7 is going to have a deficit of $6 million. $6 million. And the question becomes is where do we gain that additional revenue? We need Prop C to pass, and that's why I'm encouraging everyone in this room, please vote yes.
Thank you. Dr. Miller? I'm sorry. Erica Miller.
Thank you. I believe the biggest challenge that we are facing as a district is all of the cuts. There are cuts coming down from the federal level and the state level, and it's going to take all of us advocating, talking to our legislators, calling Jeff City, writing Jeff City. Dr. Nickens and I and President Myers were just in Jeff City 2 weeks ago, advocating, talking about the education system and what we're needing for our district. And I want to let you know that when I talked to John Patterson, I told him that, yes, I was offended about the bills that were on the House floor because they are going to directly affect the children in our district, the families in our district, and our community as a whole. And so at the top level, that the budget and the cuts are going to be the biggest challenge that I believe we're facing in the days ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson?
So I would agree with most of my colleagues that it's going to be the funding for the district that's going to be extremely important for us to pay attention to in terms of the budget and ensuring that we don't keep spending at a deficit. So what are the things that I would do? I too have been to Jeff City to talk to the legislators. I too agree with sending emails to them and explaining to them how it impacts, because sometimes when you're not close to the situation, you may not realize what's happening. So continuing to educate them. I also think it's important to educate the public on how the schools get their funding and how it is spent, and having more engagement so that we understand this. Our kids have access to a ton of resources, and that is because our tax dollars are at work for these students. I think the other thing we have to do is remain fiscally responsible. We cannot waste taxpayer dollars, and we need to be diligent about how they're spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. I have, as a board member, been to Jefferson City the past 3 years and have advocated for the full funding for our school district, the full formula funding. So it's been difficult. This last visit that I went down there, they didn't have a whole lot of answers and sounded like we weren't going to be getting the full formula funding. So there's a lot going on there with Prop C now on the ballot. We hope to kind of fill in some gaps and make salaries for our starting teachers more competitive. And so I just believe that going to Jeff City, talking to legislatures, that is one way to advocate for funding for our schools, letting them know what is best for our school district. I think that is the best that we as school board members can do.
Thank you. This next question will be for Rodrick Sparks first. And if the candidates want us to repeat the question, please ask. We'd be happy to do so. What was your involvement with LSR-7 before deciding to run for school board?
So before I began to run for school board, first I was a parent. And so I would show up to advocate for my children as a dad. But then also I attended board meetings before I decided to run. I wanted to know what is the current state of our district, what has happened in the past, and where does the vision that the current superintendent was trying to take the district in. And so my involvement is to be a supporter of this district and to be a community member in this district, but then also to be a voice for this district.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
Well, I too am a parent of 3 amazing kids in our district. I have a current senior, an 8th grader, and a 3rd grader. And so my involvement has been far and wide with the district. I've been an active participant in all of my kids' education, volunteering in the classroom on a regular basis. That's actually how I discovered that my middle kiddo had dyslexia, because I was able to see the differences of the kids that I was working with in the classrooms. I've also been an active volunteer with the PTA throughout my kids' educational career. So from kindergarten until high school, I'm still involved in the PTA and the PTSA as well.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
My involvement with the school prior to coming to the school district was as a parent. That's how I engaged the district. I have 2 children, as I stated earlier, and so I stayed in active relationships with their parents. With their teachers, and also ensuring that my kids had access to the things others did. So for instance, with my son, I wanted to make sure he had access to advanced classes. And so I had to show up and advocate for him for those things. So that has been my involvement. I also got involved, my involvement included just going to voting rallies around the city and seeing what we were talking about in the school districts and seeing what I could do to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. Well, I'm a proud parent of 2 students in LSR-7. I first got my start here in LSR-7 because my daughter is on the autism spectrum, and we got our start at the Great Beginning Early Education Center, and we went through Parents as Teachers for both of my kids. So that is where I began my journey, but I've also been a member of the PTA, and have taken an interest in my kids' education, especially during COVID. And they were at home, and I had them set up in 2 different rooms, going back and forth and making sure they were logged in where they needed to be, when they needed to be. And I have watched school board meetings throughout the years. That's where I got my interest, by attending the meetings or watching them online. And so I had a keen interest in seeing how I could help with our school district.
Thank you. Matt Warton.
So my first memory is with my daughter Bella and helping to host a field trip to the zoo with her and some friends, and that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, there's a lottery that has to happen, and this is one of the big reasons that's driving me is how can we get creative in driving parental involvement, because there were other times where I was like, oh, I want to host this field trip or host that, and you kind of had to get lucky a little bit. And you have the PTA, and that's obviously vital and incredibly important, but really it's just been supporting my kids and making sure that they have what they need to succeed and participate in the district.
All right, thank you. Our next question will start with Erica Miller. Ms. Miller, in your opinion, what should be the LSR-7 school board's top 3 priorities and why?
Okay, our top 3 priorities. Number 1, we need to be supporting our students, finding ways to figure out what they need to be able to be successful in the classroom. The second thing I would say is supporting our teachers and staff. Our teachers and staff are the foundation and heart of our district, and they are pouring into our kids on a daily basis. So making sure that we find ways to better support them, to feel seen, heard, and valued as members of our district. And third, I would say fiscal responsibility with all the budget cuts that are coming down the pike. Being fiscally responsible and understanding where those dollars are going is going to be the third thing that I would be focused on.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson?
So I think the three priorities, number one would include ensuring that we are supporting and providing high challenge and high support for the superintendent. The superintendent is responsible for ensuring that we meet our strategic goals, and that means that he is in turn supporting the teachers and supporting the students by listening to both of them. The second thing is, it's really important for us to keep the kids the focus. We are supposed to prepare them for success in life, and so they should be at the top of all decisions, regardless of how our personal feelings are. The children are indeed our future. And third, our budget for sure. We need to make sure we are using the money wisely, and we need to make sure we're taking care of our people.
Thank you. Regina Garrett?
Thank you. Well, the number one goal that we have as school board members is to oversee our superintendent and make sure that as a school district we are meeting our targets. That with academics or our budgets, and making sure that we're reaching all these priorities. Also, as a school board member, we want to be fiscally responsible. So that's something also that we have to ask questions for, examine, making sure how our dollars are being spent, that they're being spent wisely. And then the third thing I would say, academics. Reading is so important, and although we have programs for our elementary students, we need more reading programs for the middle school students, because we are having a lot of struggling readers at this time. 20% across the United States are diagnosed with dyslexia. So that is something that we do want to meet.
All right, thank you. Matt Warton?
Priority number one is academic excellence. This is what schools exist for, right? To train the next generation of folks to either go to university, go to trade school, enter the workforce, and to prepare each segment accordingly, right? There's all those things have value. The next layer to that, and that's foundational to that, is providing a safe environment, safe from fights among students, safe from outside threats, things like that. If there's not a safe environment for both students and for teachers, that's incredibly disruptive to the first goal, which is academic excellence. The last thing is budget and prioritizing the classroom and what happens in the classroom, right? We've seen increases in mental health challenges, decreases in literacy, and what we've seen is our teachers are doing great, but they need additional resources, and whether that is MC instructors, whether that's para support, there's just not enough that is being brought to bear to help them deliver on priorities 1 and 2. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rodrick Sparks?
Every year, the Board of Education have discussion on what should be the priorities of the district. That is what then guides our superintendent on what is the expectations of the Board of Education. And currently, the priorities that are listed by the current board are to deal with academics, to deal with the safety and the culture of our students, and then also our facilities. And with that being said and done, we are now going to be up for our CSIP at the end of year 2027. And we as a board will have to decide what is the direction that we should be going in as a district that is going to provide the best outcome for every single one of our students. And so yes, academics should be in the forefront of every experience for every single one of our students to make sure that everything that they need, they receive. Because of the budget cuts that we'll be having as a district, we need to make sure that every dollar that's being spent, it is about students. And then last but not least, we do need to make sure our facilities are meeting the needs of all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will be for Dr. Kamile Johnson. What is the school board's primary role and responsibility?
The school board's primary role and responsibility is to oversee the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. Yes, the primary role of the board members is to oversee our superintendent, but also that we are making our goals and we are to be the liaison between us and our stakeholders, the school district and our stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Warton.
Oversee the superintendent, but it also is, it's a check and balance. Similar to how a corporate board oversees a CEO, same kind of idea. It's not just about hiring, firing, supervising, but investigating the budget, pressure testing the budget, asking those questions and engaging in a thoughtful way and bringing a different experience, making sure that we've got folks from inside the educational sphere but also outside of it, and providing that oversight and that leadership to the superintendent and to the district as well.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
Can you please repeat the question for me?
Absolutely. What is the school board's primary role and responsibility?
The primary role of a board member is to hire, but then also to evaluate the superintendent. Because we have to make sure that the work that the superintendent is doing is actually what is needed to make sure that progress is happening when it comes to the outcome of all of our students. But then also, as a board of 7, it is to govern. We are to manage all of the facets of the district, and so while the superintendent actually leads us, it is our job to manage the way that the district is actually operating from a governance level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
Yes, so the primary role of a school board member is to oversee the superintendent. He's our one, he's the one employee. There it is. And so that is the main goal of a school board member.
Thank you. Our next question will be for Regina Garrett. Ms. Garrett, what is the most significant challenge the school board is now or will be facing during your upcoming term?
Going back to the first question, I would say that it would have to be our funding. We are going to have to hope that the taxpayers do pass Prop C. Something that I wanted to be transparent about on our school board was making sure that the ballot language was specific to that it was a tax increase. So I was, of the board members currently here, I was the one who voted to make sure that the ballot information was accurate so that the taxpayers knew exactly what they were voting for. Thank you.
So I think one of the things in terms of the plan for Prop C is that instead of targeting some of the areas that are in a shortfall, the district's plan is to kind of peanut butter spread those dollars, right? So part of it is we need to be targeted in how we apply those funds. But the next layer to this is just like a taxpayer's household. If you have some budget challenges, you have to look and be really, really intelligent and disciplined about what you choose to spend your money on. And we have to focus on the classroom, not trendy, topics, trainings, whatever it may be. These things are good, but when we're facing economic realities, we have to make some difficult decisions. And sometimes those things aren't popular, but that's part of the duty that a school board and a school board member carries, is making those tough decisions. Anyone that is involved in any high level of leadership understands that the easy problems don't make it to your desk. It's the difficult ones that don't have easy answers.
Thank you, Matt Warton. Rodrick Sparks.
So I believe the question was, within this next term, what would be the biggest challenge for the district? And so within the next 3 years, I believe that we're going to have to really take a serious look, not only at our finances, but then also what is our CSIP going to look like? And if you don't know what CSIP is, it's basically a comprehensive improvement plan. It's basically allowing us, it's the Bible for the district. So it's basically letting us know what is going to guide the efforts to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. Currently, there's 5 goals in our CSIP, and the priorities should align with the CSIP. Everything should align within the CSIP that we're doing as a district. And so I'm going to say that that would be our biggest challenge, is making sure that the CSIP is in a way that's written where there is collaborative approach with our stakeholders, with our teachers, and also our administration to make sure that we get it right.
Thank you. Erica Miller.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What is the most significant challenge the school board is now or will be facing during your upcoming term?
So I believe I'm going to go back to the finances. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm sure you're aware, actually, the income tax bill that John Patterson has on the floor to eliminate the state income tax. So we know that according to Missouri Budget Project, the tax will cost LSR-7 $21 million. $21 million. And that's about 6.3% of all the spending. So I believe that if this were to pass, this is going to be the biggest impact on our district in the coming years.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So again, it would be funding. I would say was one of the largest challenges we're going to face, as some of my colleagues have already stated. When we look at some of the tax legislation that may be coming down, it is going to cause us to have to continue to deficit spend as we are doing now. And thankfully, we have some reserves, or what people may understand as savings, to help that, but it's not sustainable. Also, we need to consider other changes like voucher programs and other things like open enrollment. All of these things are going to impact the district and ultimately impact the budget. The dollars do not always directly follow the student the way the verbiage is shared. I think also, like Mr. Sparks said, is the CSIP. That is our strategic plan and how we're planning to meet that. And because it's coming in up 2027, we need to make sure we have the community engaged, and that includes parents and any taxpayer, because it's just important to taxpayers even if you don't have children in the district.
Thank you. This next question will be for Mr. Warton, and this is our first question from the audience. If you are elected to the school board or the Board of Education, how will you develop and navigate your relationships with the superintendent, administrators, and other personnel across the district?
Good question. Thanks for that. So professionally, I've spent a lot of time working cross-functionally with engineers, with accountants. I'm a sales guy a little bit, you know, leadership and consulting, and so I enjoy talking to people. But for those of you, engineers and accountants are different folks, right? So you have to spend some time just engaging and talking to them as just another person, right? Understand what's important to them, what's driving where they're coming from, seek to understand where they're coming from. And look, there's going to be disagreements, there's going to be conflicts. The bottom line is we expect every student in our district to operate out of a level of respect and maturity. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to lead the way and show by example in terms of how we engage and conduct one another. So take the time to invest in conversation, listen, and then focus on the policy and the argument and not anything beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
I think it's important. Mrs. Miller, Board Member Miller, she stated that our one employee is the superintendent. And so we have to understand that there is a chain of command. And so the interaction that happens directly is with our superintendent. And so if he then allows us to engage with other administration within the district, then we're able to do so. We have some administration here with Dr. Carlson, Dr. Shelton's here. And what I would tell you is we have to trust them because they're the experts. This is what they do every single day. And so for me, that relationship is to continue to foster a working relationship with the superintendent, but then also trusting those that are the expert to make the right decisions and then for us to verify.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
Well, as a licensed family therapist, one of the main things that I do in my role every day is building relationships. And so I love building relationships. Relationships are key to the success, right, of our district. And so having a positive relationship with our superintendent is key, as well as fellow board members and administration. and staff and teachers as well, and students. And so I would say that that is one of the most important pieces. We also know there's a direct connection between academic success and the stability of the board, the stability of our superintendent. So having those relationships and connections impacts the bottom line.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
Can you repeat the question, please?
If you are elected to the Board of Education, how will you develop and navigate your relationships with the superintendent, administrators, and other personnel across the district?
So one, I would say we have to have open, honest communication. One of the things we focused on in the district is making sure we're hard on the issues and not all people. We don't all have to be the same to want the same thing for our children. 99% of the time, we want the same things for our children. Specifically as a board member, just to give it a different spin, we're all on different committees, and I can build relationships with people and be collaborative by being on committees. For instance, Team Lee Summit is a committee that is existing of all employer groups. And so that's one of the ways that I will continue to engage and collaborate with them. I think committee work can help with that.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. The best way, the key way, is to have communication, open dialogue with our superintendent and the administrators. Being a really good listener, asking questions, so that we can better become more informed school board members of all things LSR-7. But also foster working relationships with everyone. We have different committees that we sit on. One that I have a great passion for is the Lee Summit Educational Foundation, and just in all things that they do to give back to our school districts and make learning a lot easier for our students in our school district.
All right, thank you. Our next question will start with Rodrick Sparks. Mr. Sparks, what changes, if any, should be made to the LSR-7's current student curriculum?
Changes for the student curriculum. I'm going to say, because I am not currently on the board, I don't have a direct answer of what curriculum changes I would like to see made. What I will tell you is, on my day one back on the board, that is what I would like to see, is the fidelity of the curriculum that is currently being used, and what achievements have we seen with that curriculum, and then what new recommendations, if any, do the administration have for us as a board.
All right, thank you. Erica Miller.
Well, as was stated before by Mr. Sparks, we have curriculum specialists, we have experts that are focused on curriculum. And so most of those are the teachers and staff in our district. And so I would say that if there needs to be any changes, I'd want to go to the teachers and staff first to see what they are seeing and what they are feeling needs to be changed. And also looking at our data. Is our data telling us something that we need to know and make changes to? So I think those are the focus points, is really talking to our staff that's implementing the curriculum and talking to our students and looking at our data. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So I definitely believe that we should rely on professionals and we should collaborate with them. One of the ways we should do that is making sure they are using evidence-based curriculums that have shown that they do work, but we also have to evaluate them. Kind of like I call a PDSA from my science courses, Plan, Do, Study, Act. So we look into a curriculum, we see if it's working for other students that are like ours or similar to ours, we evaluate it, and then we improve from there. Now, this can take some time, but again, I think that's why we rely on the professionals to do those things, and we collaborate with them. And as a school board member, we have a 50,000-foot view of that, and so we wouldn't be making specific curriculum and decisions, but we are making decisions for budget, and curriculums and things like that do cost money. Thank you.
Thank you. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. Well, I would say the math and reading curriculum I would want to take a look at. I would also want to increase our experts that we have. We do have reading experts as interventionists, and we have special reading programs for the elementary students, but we don't have them for the middle schoolers. And that's what I would like to see changed, as well as math proficiency rates going up. And just that they have a proven efficacy record of increasing our proficiency rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Warton.
So we've heard a lot about experts, and they matter. They matter a lot. But there's a balance between relying on the experts, because the experts live in that world. And sometimes, if you're not careful, there's an echo chamber in that world, and there's an accepted way that we do things. And so part of the role of the board is to, again, to ask those questions, to say, hey, let's turn this around a couple of different ways and make sure that this isn't just doing things the way they've been done because that's the way that they're done, but that it actually works. That's where data-driven things matter, and making sure that we're prioritizing efficacy and not just, you know, what happens to maybe be a recent trend in academia or whatever it may be. I do think that as we look at literacy rates in middle school are really rough. I think last study I saw was 35, 36% in the district. Pretty terrible. So maybe there's some questions to be asked about that. Again, this is going to be an area for me that I'm going to spend a lot of time learning, a lot of questions to ask and understand, and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the district and, most importantly, for the students.
Thank you. This next question will be for Erica Miller. Do you support proposed legislation for open enrollment in the Missouri public school system? And how should the LSR-7 school district prepare if open enrollment legislation is passed?
Okay, so I absolutely do not support any legislation for open enrollment. We know that LSR-7 is a destination district. So what open enrollment would do would be to flood our classrooms and flood our district from all the other surrounding districts. We would deal with overcrowding. We would deal with significant budget concerns. And so I definitely don't support open enrollment. I believe that is not going to be the best thing for our district. What was the second part? I'm so sorry. The second part of the question.
How should the LSR-7 school district prepare if open enrollment legislation is passed?
Okay. And I believe that we should prepare by just listening. We need to listen. We need to know what's ahead of us. We regularly get information from MSBA, which is the Missouri School Board Association. And so those legislative updates and things help us to understand what's coming.
Thank you. And as a quick reminder for all of our candidates, please keep your microphones closer to your mouth so that we can make sure our online folks can hear your answers to the questions. Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Do you support proposed legislation for open enrollment in the Missouri public school system? And how should the LSR-7 school district prepare if open enrollment legislation is passed?
So no, I do not support open enrollment for the LSR-7 school district. I know that there are places where that is a good option, but I believe the district that we are, being a destination district, that it remains that way. The thing is, when you have open enrollment, there's dollars that need to follow. And again, those dollars do not always follow. When you think about open enrollment, you have to think about transportation. Transportation's being cut as well. So with open enrollment, it's not something that I support. However, if this was something that LSR-7 had to contend with, then we have to find money. And when we talk about finding money for public schools, we're talking about tax dollars. And many people don't want to pay increased tax dollars. So that's what we would have to look into do. How are we going to get this done? How do we keep the classrooms small? How do we keep the buildings at capacity? And how do we ensure that we're taking all of the students, because we're going to get a variety of coming in, and we're going to need more assistance with things like reading specialists and math specialists.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. I believe our legislators need to key in and focus on how our school district would be impacted with funding and transportation as well. But I also believe that kids shouldn't be tied to a zip code with a struggling school district. So if there was something that we could work with in legislation as a school district, I would be for it.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Warton.
Policies and legislation like this presents a seismic shift in terms of how public education has been handled. And so I'm personally not familiar with the details of that, because I can see if it's just open season, it would be a disaster, right? So there has to be some, I don't want to become very, very familiar with the ins and the outs of that particular piece of legislation and how it goes. On principle, I absolutely believe that students shouldn't be just forced to go to a district that is failing and they're struggling. So I do believe in that, but you can't just declare a thing and have, because you're right, we are a destination district, and at a certain level, selfishly, sure, we'd love to be able to just, have everyone that lives here go to our schools, but sometimes there is that broader responsibility to kids in our broader community, not just in Lee Summit, but in the metro area, because we all live in Kansas City, right? So it's tricky, it's complicated, and there's a lot of questions and a lot of things to be able to figure out for how to make this happen.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
I have been on record not supporting any legislation that would allow open enrollment or a voucher system. That would completely defund our school system, and it would hurt the education of all of our children. What I will also say is the question becomes, well, how do we deal with that? Local elections matter. You have to elect individuals on your board that would not support open enrollment. The legislations that have been presented, it will allow districts to opt in or opt out. And so if you have a majority of a board that would support open enrollment, then that's exactly what would happen. But if you have a majority of a board that would oppose open enrollment or voucher systems, then we would be able to stop that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Dr. Kamile Johnson. Dr. Johnson, what is the ideal relationship between the LSR-7 school board, the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and the business community?
I think the ideal relationship would mean that we both are thinking about how to keep our school district funded. So that means when additional projects are coming into the city and it impacts tax dollars, what are we doing to work together to make sure that not only can we keep our schools with good numbers in the classrooms and how we maintain that, but also where's the funding coming from as additional students may come into the district. I think also we have to consider, boundary lines. We have to consider things like how the roads are and what needs improvement so that we can get our children to and from. So when we think about that, also consider security and safety. So that means the types of relationships we need to build with our Lee Summit Fire and our Lee Summit Police. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to Regina Garrett, I would like to remind our guests to submit a question if they wish to do so. Thank you. Regina Garrett, and I will repeat the question for you. What is the ideal relationship between the LSR-7 school board, the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and the business community?
The first thing that comes to mind as I think of this relationship between us all is Workforce Alliance. So I know that the chamber is very supportive of our local businesses and getting them ground broken and grand openings for the businesses. But what I think about is our students being introduced to the workforce and how many of these businesses are mentoring our students, partnering with the school district, and helping our students achieve their goals in high school and beyond. So I believe that is the one relationship that I see significant and that we all as a community and a school district benefit from.
Thank you. Matt Warton.
So I think that the relationship between the three entities is one of synergy, right? Kids go out into the world, and whether they start a business, go work for a business, just participate in the community in general. As our community grows, then the hope would be that our enrollment grows because families want to come and live in Lee Summit, work in Lee Summit, and send their kids to our schools, right? So it is a synergistic relationship, and as such, the leaders of those entities should have good, strong connections, good, strong relationships, and working to see how the things that they're specifically responsible for can connect and dovetail into the other groups. Thanks.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
So that's the beautiful thing about this community, is because everyone is working together. And so when I joined the board, that was one of the things that I saw was all of these different entities working together to make sure that our kids had exactly what they needed. And so when we talk about our chamber community, we're talking about all of our businesses, businesses that already currently exist, but then also new businesses that are coming to this community. When you talk about our business roundtable, those are also opportunities every single month. So when Dr. Johnson was speaking of board committees, our business roundtable is a board committee where we are actually engaging with these individuals and we're talking about the structure of our district, what can we improve in the district, and what are some things that would actually make our businesses better. And that is where we can glean from each other of making sure that we're working together to benefit all of our children in LSR-7. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica Miller.
Do you mind repeating it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What is the ideal relationship between the LSR-7 School Board, the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and the business community?
So the ideal relationship between those three are really about collaboration and partnership. We talk about, and that's what we have. That's the beautiful thing about the relationship that we have. We're very connected with our city council, with our chamber, with our police and fire, and with our business community. And all of those together really help to support our district in a variety of ways. Like Mr. Sparks mentioned, Business Roundtable, that's one of my committees, and I absolutely love being able to come monthly and sit with the business community and really have them, they're sitting there and listening what's happening with our district and what the needs are and what we're looking at as far as outlook. Also, we have the LSEDC, and they also are a partnership for us to be able to connect students with internships and real-world learning opportunities. So we have a great collaboration relationship with all of those connections.
Thank you. This next question will be for Ms. Regina Garrett. What is your opinion about private school vouchers and school choice?
Well, thank you. For the private school vouchers, I am not supportive of that. Now, in our legislatures, if that comes to pass, I don't really have control over that, but that is something that I don't support as a public school district, that we should send money to other school districts or schools, private schools. Thank you.
I think this topic is similar to, oh, sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit. This topic is similar to the open enrollment, where there's a variety of opinions and perspectives on it. And I think, first and foremost, public education matters, because not everyone is going to be able to send their kids to a private school. Not everyone's going to be able to go to a different school. So we have to maintain a foundational aspect of quality and excellence within public education. However, by the same token, providing, I mean, America's built on freedom, right? And so providing choice to taxpayers and to families is also valuable. One of the biggest challenges that government institutions have is they don't have the challenges of the private market, right? And so there are some things from a competition perspective that drives organizations to be better, right? So, but all of these things have to be done incredibly thoughtfully. And my perspective is going to be very, very specific on the legislation, because whatever we do, we cannot gut public education.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
Absolutely. We cannot gut public education, and privatizing it by giving vouchers to private students would do just that. And so I'm here to tell you that I am also for choice. If a family decides to send their child to a private school because of religious beliefs or whatever it may be, I completely support that. What I would not support is private tax dollars being able to go, public tax dollars to be then invested in private decisions. And so again, I don't support that legislation, and I would do everything I could to fight against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
So the answer is simple, it's no. I don't support public dollars going anywhere but to public schools. We, in public education, we have to educate all children. We don't get to pick and cherry pick and choose who gets to come, who gets the special education services, who gets the advanced placement, we don't get to choose. So The answer is no. I've answered that question multiple times, and I have not wavered. That vouchers should not be a part of public schools.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So for this, I'm a no. I do not support using vouchers for public schools, for private schools for many reasons, but again, it's about the funding. And also, public schools are open to anyone. They cannot deny anyone access, regardless of where they're from, what they look like, or what they practice. And that's extremely important. And many of us in this room probably came through the public school system. Also, when I think about that, you have to consider the transparency. Right now, in the public school system, you get to elect your board members. That's not necessarily the case when you privatize things, and your public dollars would be going to privatizing things. And also, making sure that they're meeting the goals set forth by the state. So DESE, the education system that sets goals and things like that, and making sure they're meeting all the standards so that our children do have good literacy and good math skills. Those things are important. So no, I don't support it. Public dollars should be for public schools where we're held accountable and there's transparency.
Thank you. Our next question will be for Matt Warton. Mr. Warton, what is your position regarding the question on the April 7th ballot asking voters to approve a full waiver of the school district's Proposition C rollback?
So I plan to vote for it, but I also can understand why folks are concerned about it. Given all the challenges that Jackson County had with assessments and things like this, I've heard from a lot of people that they are they're struggling with the idea of spending more of their tax money. But by the same token, like we talked about earlier this evening, the district is facing a budget shortfall. So as I look at my own personal finance, my own personal budget, I'm going to vote for it. And I think it's a good thing, but I can understand where taxpayers are skittish. I also think that we anticipate that the central office is going to ask for a levy rate increase later in the year as well. And so that should all be part of this discussion. And I think some of the concerns have been with the ballot language not being particularly clear about it being a tax increase. But look, at the end of the day, we value education. That's part of why I'm going to vote yes for it. And if the taxpayers say, yes, we're on board with continuing to carry more than their fair share relative to the state and the federal government, then all for it, and we'll continue to be responsive and responsible with those dollars.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
I am completely in support of the full Prop C waiver. What I will say is this. It was mentioned that the district will recommend a levy increase. That is the action of the Board of Education. And I think we have to wait until that time comes to see what decision is then made by that current board. What I will also say is this. We have a very supportive community. And this community has supported our schools along the way. And I really just don't believe that this community would not support our teachers, not support our buildings, and not support the things that we're doing every single day to educate every single one of our students. And so yes, I am very in support of the Prop C waiver that will happen on April 7th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Erica Miller.
Yes, I'm in support of the Prop C waiver. For those of you who don't know, that is going to put $4 million into the budget for salaries for staff, $4 million. And also what you should know is there's 3 types of funding that the district gets: local funding, state funding, and federal funding. Guess what's the biggest bucket of that? Local. So that's why we need this Prop C to pass, because we need that money from our local taxpayers. Also, 91% of our surrounding districts already have this. They already have a full waiver. So we're not doing anything new, okay? 91% have that. Also, my last point will be that I just read an article the other day that said that about 71% of teachers have second or third jobs. So I bet we have teachers in this room. I'm not gonna ask you to raise your hand, but I'm guessing they have second and third jobs. And we need to pass Prop C so that we can support our teachers and staff.
All right, thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
Yes, I support Prop C, absolutely. So I want us to think about this. LSR-7 is the largest employer in Lee Summit. 65% of its employees roughly live in Lee Summit. About 80% of the LSR-7 budget goes to taking care of the people, the very people who we want to provide excellent education for our children. The other thing I want to clarify, it is a tax rate increase. So yes, some people's tax bills will go up, but if you look at Senate Bill 190, and there's some other exceptions, it doesn't mean a tax bill increase for everyone. It is a tax rate increase. And again, it puts $4 million into the budget. And it's committed to going to staff and teachers. The other thing that we should know, without that money, our teachers and staff would be getting a raise that's less than the cost of living. And I don't think anyone would want that. We all see the increased rates. These people go to our churches, they're our neighbors, they support the community, they shop in the grocery stores, they buy the gas. And so I think they should be paid, and that $4 million would help get them a cost of living increase.
Thank you. Regina, Garrett.
Thank you. Well, I support the sentiment of giving teachers and staff and giving them competitive salaries, because they are the ones that come in most contact with our students. I believe they do need a competitive salary. The question is, what rate would they be getting it? Is it something that gets them through the hard times that we're experiencing right now with property taxes and inflation? I would think that we would need more supportive staff, and we also need more reading interventionists. I would love to have more of those, and I would love to see them be giving competitive salaries for our school district to catch our students up with reading in middle school. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will be for Mr. Sparks. How should the school board measure whether the district is successful beyond test scores? What metrics matter most to you?
I think test scores is just a component, but we also need to know that the way of learning is also changing. A lot of districts are changing to a format of project learning, where students are learning basically how to complete projects. And we're testing more so on knowledge of understanding and comprehension versus just a typical test score where they're filling in the bubble. And so I think we have to continue looking at ways on how we're measuring growth, but then also that's important when we create our CSIP, when we create our priorities as a board. We should also be putting SMART goals along with those priorities so that we can say this is where our baseline is, where we currently are, but then also this is how we're going to measure to see if growth is actually happening when it comes to our different subjects that is being taught in school.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
Will you repeat the question?
How should the school board measure whether the district is successful beyond test scores? What metrics matter most to you?
Well, I think as a person who despises standardized tests, I definitely think there's so many other ways to figure out how our students are doing. And one of the ways is by asking them, by showing up in the classrooms, by being side by side with them and asking them, how are you doing? How is it going? What are you struggling with? So I think that's the key. And like I said in my opening statement, I have had the privilege of being in classrooms on a regular basis. And so I think that talking to the students is one of the keys, and also partnering with our staff and our families. So those are the ways that I think are the most important. Also a sense of belonging, because when students feel like they belong, they can learn better. It's a fact.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
Can you repeat the question?
How should the school board measure whether the district is successful beyond test scores? What metrics matter most to you?
So I think a way we do this is we continue to evaluate the culture and the climate of the district. One of the ways we evaluate those things now is by providing surveys to the students, to the staff, and to the community. So I think we have to listen to those, and that's one of the ways we measure, because as Ms. Miller stated, having a sense of belonging and having a sense that this is where you should be and you feel included and you feel safe is extremely important, and that's what we want. Because when children are learning, there's a hierarchy of needs, and that hierarchy includes feeling safe and feeling included. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. During a visit this week at an elementary school, so I learned a little bit about how they are able to capture students that are having reading disabilities or dyslexia through NWEA testing. So that is something that I think was great to hear, that it's not like the end all be all of knowing what exactly is wrong with the student's reading, but they can start with interventions and get into a special reading program if they need that. So I was glad to hear that, but also I'm a kind of a get back to basic type of gal. I think reading is important, and reading is gonna open up so many doors for our students and that are having those difficulties, and it's gonna impact them in every class they have. It's gonna impact them after school. So that is something that I really think is important that we nail down.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Warton.
The district's success needs to be measured across the priorities. So the ones that I had laid out were academic excellence, safety for teachers and students, and financial responsibility. And so part of the process is to pick the things you're going to measure, make sure that those are the right things and the right ways to measure, and then those things need to be put in context to similar districts with similar demographics and things like that, so that we're not just picking an arbitrary standard and saying, hey, we met it or we didn't meet it. I think some longevity studies as it relates to whether it's college placement, job placement, finding out how are our graduates doing 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line, and understanding how are we doing in real life, right? Because test scores, those are vital today, but what ultimately matters is, are we preparing our students for success in life after LSR-7? Thanks.
All right, thank you. Our next question will start with Erica Miller, and it's our next audience question as well. What isn't currently being done that you would correct, and are there any current policies or practices that you would revise?
Well, what I want to tell you about our district is we have so many incredible things happening. We have programs that are preparing our students. We have teachers that are spending their summers helping our students. So I'm not sure that I have anything to pinpoint of what we can do different. I think that there's always opportunities for growth. So I think listening to our experts, listening to our teachers and our staff and students is really how we can measure and understand maybe some things that might need to be different. And as far as policy goes, we have policy committee, and we are constantly reviewing. Dr. Carlson leads that. We constantly review all the policies to make sure that they're up to date in terms of language, in terms of relevance for our district. So I think we're doing a great job of that as well.
All right, thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
Yes, so we talk about maybe what isn't being done. Again, we have exceptional programming in the district, but one of the things that I think about that's important to me, because I experienced it as a parent, was making sure that our children are all aware of things academically, honors courses, academic advanced courses, IB courses, things like that. Because in the past, I know there's been times where it's the teachers or it may be the staff in the district who are picking those children, and now we've actually started moving towards where we're using data, and that helps to remove some of the bias. And I think that is important because you have to look at the whole student. As we're saying, sometimes the standardized test is not the defining thing for that child and to know how they can excel. So that's definitely something I'd like to see improve. And also making sure we're getting it to the parents and not just expecting them to come to us. We have to find a way to get to those parents. And in terms of policy, we should just keep reviewing them as we are. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Regina Garrett.
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
Absolutely. What isn't currently being done that you would correct?
All right. Well, being in COVID, I will use an example that I experienced. So my son, who was in the second grade, was given an assignment and to turn it in on his computer. And how he achieved this assignment in writing a paper was speaking into the speaker of his computer and then turning it in. And when I found that out, I questioned it, was like, I don't think you're supposed to do it that way. He's like, oh yes, I can do it. I said, I'm sure you can, but that are you supposed to? Because you're not learning spelling, you're not learning grammar, you're not learning punctuation. And so getting back to the basics in elementary school, I think the focus should be them writing and not using so much of the computers to do their work on. And that's what I would improve.
All right, thank you. Matt Warton.
One of the big opportunities that I see is pathways for parental involvement. I mentioned that earlier. PTA is important and will continue to be a staple of the interaction between the parents and the schools, so that needs to stay, of course. But other than that, what other ways that we can get parents involved? Right? Parents are first and foremost responsible for raising their children, and then that's a partnership with teachers and with educators. And so how can we incorporate that? And as we look at challenges from a support perspective and as children have behavioral problems and things like that, there's got to be new and different ways to encourage that involvement. And that would be one thing personally that I'd be really excited to engage with, to understand more about what's possible and get creative with some of these solutions and how we can partner better with parents.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Can you please repeat the question?
Absolutely, sure. What isn't currently being done that you would correct, and are there any current policies or practices that you would revise?
So what's currently being done that I would correct? I think our dinner of the boards were designed to engage with parents and our community, and not just parents. I want to be very clear. When the dinner of the board was created, it was a designed way to be able to engage all stakeholders. That is parents, that is adults without parents, without students, and that was also for our children. And it was to be able to talk about things that are going well, things that are not going well, so that there would be transparent communication with the decision makers, which would be the Board of Education, so that we can always look for opportunities that we can improve. When we look at policies that I think that could be implemented or changed, is we need an AI policy. We know that we live in a world that we have ChatGPT and all of these other avenues. And what I believe it's doing, it is actually stifling the growth of our students. Because instead of them thinking for themselves, instead of them problem solving, they're able just to literally type in something and then here's their paper. And so that is something that I would like to see implemented immediately.
Thank you. This next question will be for Dr. Kamile Johnson. Describe a time during a spirited discussion when you changed your mind after hearing new, compelling information, and how might that experience impact your approach as you serve on the school board?
So I would say a spirited conversation would be the conversations we had to have around what to do with Lee Summit Elementary in Westview. So my initial thought was, based on the numbers that were presented to us and how to make sure the school is highly functioning, that it should be something that we should combine. But the community spoke up, they came out, they had a lot of support, and we did a Pratt, and I heard some of the emotions and the feelings behind that. And I think with some decisions, it's more than just looking at data. You have to have the emotional intelligence to consider all things. And while I know we're going to continue to do that, it did just give me a different thought. It didn't necessarily change my mind, but it gave me a different thought as, you know what, these people showed up, they spoke out, and we should at least acknowledge that. And I believe that we did, and it did change my mind on how I felt about it at that time because of the community engagement.
Thank you. Regina Garrett.
There was one vote that we had, and that was regarding the language about Prop C on the ballot. So while I was very supportive of it, and I knew it was coming up, and I knew that this was something I wanted to pass and make it happen, it came up, one of our board members talked about the language. and that it should indicate that it is a tax rate increase, and that voters deserved to be able to see that and know what they were voting for on the ballot. So in that instance, I changed my mind with the caveat that we had time. We had time to change the language and to indicate that to voters it was a tax rate increase. And so that was one discussion that changed my mind, and that I felt adamant that the taxpayers should know what they're voting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Warton.
I work in a very technical field. And like I said, I'm in sales and leadership, and so I'm constantly having discussions where we're trying to meet the exact nature of engineers and parts and pieces while also understanding the needs and what a customer is trying to accomplish. And so there's a lot of times where I'll go into a conversation with one of my design engineers kind of set on how I want to approach this particular customer's issue that we're trying to solve for them. And many times there's a, well, hey, you can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. And so it's a constant learning process and making sure that even as I've, throughout my experience, have learned a ton about that world, there's still a lot that I continue to learn day in and day out. And so that's one of the things that's always been important to me is continually learning. I've learned a lot throughout this process and will continue to do so if I'm elected. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
Can you please read the question again for me?
Absolutely. Describe a time during a spirited discussion when you changed your mind after hearing new, compelling information. And how might that experience impact your approach as you serve on the school board?
Spirited discussion is, I believe, always good. A lot of times as a board member, a lot of discussions are had prior to actually making the decision on the dais. And so for me, I think it's about doing the homework. I think it's about asking the questions beforehand so that when it is time to actually cast your vote on the dais, you're able to just inform the public on how did you get to your decision. And so for me, I just believe that it's about doing the work so that you're able to articulate why you made the vote that you did at that particular time.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
Okay, well, on the board, as you guys know, we are a board of 7. So there's never a vote that it's just made by one person. It is the full body and the majority rules. And so I would say as we've probably had many spirited conversations. The first one that came to my mind was the same one Dr. Johnson mentioned. It was a tough conversation about the looking at whether the enrollment data supported LSC to be closed. And so I think that, the beautiful thing about community is community steps up and community speaks up and advocates. And so we did. We heard from the community, and I think that helped to reshape what our conversations were and what our decisions would be.
All right, thank you. Our next question will start with Regina Garrett. Ms. Garrett, how do you intend to achieve a collaborative atmosphere and reach consensus with your school board colleagues?
Thank you. Well, I definitely think communication is key, that we should be really listening to one another and asking each other questions and maintaining professionalism. And, there will be contentious times, but as long as we all are professional on the board, as you know, our meetings are live streamed, and so they're open to the public, they're open to students and children to listen in on our meetings. I think we owe it to them to conduct ourselves with the utmost respect towards each other and to keep our heads and wits about ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Warton.
So I think that not taking things personally, right? We're talking about policy, we're talking about perspectives. And look, passion is one thing, right? These are important things. We're talking about the education of our children and what that means to our communities and things like that. So understanding that we're discussing policy here. And it's important to pursue consensus, but also to recognize and understand that consensus isn't always possible, and that's okay. And that's part of why this is a body of 7 and not just one person that just gets to decide what the plan is going to be. And so being respectful, communicating, steel manning the other person's perspective, making sure that you do some due diligence to understand what it is they're actually arguing for and not being dismissive of it. Regardless of where you land, you may still disagree at the end of the discussion, but the important part is the discussion and going back and forth with one another to decide where the group is going to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodrick Sparks.
Collaboration is essential when it comes to working with 6 other individuals that have their own perspectives, their own lived experiences when it comes to making a decision. And so what I think that is more important is that there's respect, but then also that we're staying focused on the goal. And every decision that is made by the Board of Education, I believe that the number one goal is, how does this impact our children? How did this impact learning? And so I believe that if we keep those at the forefront of every decision and every conversation, then collaboration should happen, especially if you're there for the right reason.
Thank you. Erica Miller.
Well, I believe that it's important, collaboration is important, right? As I stated before, there's 7 of us. And we have board norms that were established. And one of those is be prepared, be a prepared board member. So that means come to the meeting, already have read your packet, asked your questions, and gotten clarification from the experts in the space where all the decisions are coming down from. Also, attack the issues, not the people. So that's a big one as well. And I think that it's really important that we seek to understand each other's perspective. We don't have to agree. We all come from different backgrounds and from different perspectives walking into the boardroom. But as Mr. Sparks said, if we keep our students first, that is going to be the key to every decision that we should be making.
Thank you. And Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So I think one of the things that we do is we do have some healthy deliberation. I think it's important that everyone has a chance to speak and then everyone else is listening. I think as leaders, we also need to understand that what we think is the best idea may not be the best for that time or at that time. And so while consensus would be ideal, even if it is not, we have to respect each other's opinions. We have to ensure we're not taking it personal, and we need to make sure we're also speaking honestly. I think that that is key to working together with 7 people on the board. And like my other co-candidate stated, the goal is keeping the kids first. So if we're focused on keeping the kids first and we're not taking things personally, you can do things like myself at the end of the meeting, you give a fist bump to a colleague that you didn't necessarily agree with to show that we were really here for the work.
Thank you. This next question will be for Mr. Warton. How will you address the challenges related to student mental health and increased community support?
I think that's a good question and a challenge that we're facing, right? We've seen increase in mental health challenges and issues that our students have. We've seen a decrease in literacy, and I think the district has incredible staff, has incredible programs in place for those things, but those programs, I believe, have become strained. And the support resources that teachers need, whether it's paras, whether it's MC instructors, to help them actually execute on those programs and meet the needs of those students, that's where we're really struggling right now. And so I think as we look at, bring up the plan for Prop C if it passes, right? We're going to peanut butter spread that funding. I think that's not the way that I would look at it. We need to target certain areas, certain positions where we see where the challenges are, where the shortfalls are, and we need to shift to meet those challenges.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
This is one of the most difficult jobs as a board member, is to have to attend funerals of students that have taken their life. And I had the unfortunate opportunities to attend not just one, not just 2, but 3 within my first 2 years on the board. And so when we talk about the mental health of our students, I think we have to acknowledge that it's real, that we have kids that are actually struggling. And I think when they come to school with whatever that struggle is or whatever baggage they have to carry, it then becomes our problem as a district. It becomes the problem of that teacher, that paraprofessional that has to be able to figure out, how do I educate this student through that struggle? And so we have to continue to look for resources to make sure that we can meet the needs of our students while they're under our care.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
So mental health is at the crux of what I see on a day-to-day basis as a therapist. And just want to give you a little bit of numbers here. So according to the CDC, the most recent data, so as of last year, we had in teens a historic high of depression. 40% of our teens reported being sad or depressed, and that's a historic high number. Also, 1 in 10 teenagers have thoughts of suicide, which amounts to about 700,000 suicides within a year's time. And so we at the district, one of the things that I feel like we need to do is expand as much as we can the mental health supports that we have. And one of the ways that we do that is by partnering with our community partners like Lee Summit Cares. And there's community organizations all over that can help support the mental health of our students.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So to piggyback on what Ms. Miller said, I think it would be ideal if we can expand some of the services that we provide to students when they're in our care. Everyone does not have the same resources at home. And because of that reason, they are coming into the classroom, they're coming into the buildings with a bit of baggage. Ideally, I would like to hire mental health specialists to be at the schools, or counselors that kids could talk to and it be open to them to have that opportunity, because again, they may not be able to get it at home. We don't know what home life is like. I think what's also important to think about is maybe there are some different roles. Maybe we can't hire mental health specialists, but what other roles can people play in the students' lives? We know that learning, again, is extremely important, but if I'm sad, if I'm upset, if I'm mad, there are many things that impact you actually taking in that information. And so addressing that means putting more resources in the schools, which I know costs money, but that's ideally what I think would be a good thing to do.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Well, thank you. While we do have Lee Summit Cares, who has programs to support our students, and they're very active in the community with students that have forums and get out the word to other students if they're in need. I also know that there's a challenge with the climate that we have in our school district. There's so much political divisiveness. There is, difference of opinions, that students could be bullied for their difference. And I think that's something that could change if we allowed our students the opportunity to grow and recognize the differences and accept those differences in all of us. And I'm not talking with the DEI program, but just enforcing it at a very young age, that there will be differences and that's okay.
Thank you. Our next question will be for Rodrick Sparks. It is our second to last question, and it is our final audience question. And here we go. In the event Proposition C does not pass, how will you respond? What is your new strategy, and what are our next steps? And again, this was asked by 4 times from our audience tonight. Thank you.
If Prop C does not pass, then that means that we have $4 million that would not be added to the revenue, which means that our teachers would not receive the pay that they're hoping to receive to increase their salaries. But what that also means is this, is that that's $4 million of revenue that we won't have the year after and the year after also. And so as budget cuts are continuing to happen, then we're going to, as a board, have to make some serious decisions on where are those cuts made. And what I would tell you is I would fight like hell to make sure that they're not being cut from the classroom.
Thank you. Erica Miller.
So The great thing about our district is we have long-term plans when it comes to budgets, when it comes to financial outlooks. And so if the unfortunate thing happens and it does not pass, I know that there is a plan in place for us to, unfortunately, probably have to dip into our reserves. And so I think that, like Mr. Sparks said, it would be something that's a continuous. So it's not just for next year, it'd be for the year after and the year after and the year after. So just thinking about the long-term impact. But the good news is we have experts, and Dr. Herzog, Dr. Shelton, they're all supporting all the efforts in making sure that our budget looks good no matter what.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So if it doesn't pass, we'll be in a pickle because we have to figure out a way to take care of our teachers and our staff. Again, over 80% of our budget goes to them, and we want them to continue to do the best that they can. Also, when we're going to recruit, so if we want to recruit these additional math specialists, reading specialists, we want to recruit mental health providers to help with our students, we're going to need that. So what am I going to do? I just have to keep fighting and getting things through to the legislation to see if we can get bills passed and we could get bills changed and come back to the community again. You said no one time. It does not mean that I cannot ask again another year, and I wouldn't give up on that. But it would be extremely challenging to keep it up because, again, 20% of the budget for everything else, we'd be nickel and diming ourselves to death, and it doesn't mean that it's going to continue. Whereas though Prop C, that money continues year after year after year. Thank you.
Thank you. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. So if Prop C doesn't pass, then yes, we are going to have to dip into our reserves, and we can only sustain so long with that. I believe that we should have, if it does pass, we should target specific areas within our school district, whether it's dealing with mental health resources or reading and math interventionists, dyslexia professionals. We need more. While we have some, we need more. And that's where I think also, besides making our teachers and staff having competitive salaries, I think we should also focus on those positions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Warton.
I think challenging questions like that are a key part of why the board sets priorities, because those priorities are the things that guide decision making when there's no easy answers. Because budget cuts, I mean, if anyone, I know I've had to cut my own personal budget, and everything on there is stuff that you're like, oh man, I really like that, I want to keep that. But this is part of the process. And so having those priorities and having those priorities guide what those cuts are going to be so that we maintain the focus on the classroom, teachers, students, support staff, what's happening in the buildings out across the district, and not necessarily those district programs, and engaging, going through an audit, understanding each department coming and saying, hey, here are the things that we believe that we can do without, and how we can help collectively hit this goal if that shortfall happens. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're at our last question of the evening, and we'll start with Ms. Miller. What is a concern or opportunity regarding the LSR-7 school district that has not been raised this evening?
Well, I think that one of the things that we haven't talked about is, we have incredible programs. So we've talked about that, but one particular one that I wanted to call out was pre-K. So we have 180 students this year that were able to attend our pre-K program. It's been so successful that we're adding 3 additional classrooms next year. So that's exciting, because what does that mean? That means that our littlest learners get the opportunity to be in the classroom at a younger age. That means that we have services like our Parents as Teachers, right? That helps to come alongside. We have our Great Beginnings, and all of these programs support success for social emotional learning, for cognitive development, and for school readiness. Our kiddos, our littlest learners, get to go into kindergarten already being ahead. So I just wanted to point that out, that we're doing some great things for our kids.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So I would say that something that we haven't talked about a lot tonight, or honestly, many of the forums that I've been to, is the diversity in the organization in terms of the languages that are spoken. And when I say that, I mean we're talking about getting parents more engaged. Getting parents more engaged means that we are getting them materials and we are reaching out to them in ways that they can understand, in ways that they can then help their children. So we have resources inside of the schools for those children, but what do? So we look at our website, we look at our communications audit and try to figure out ways to reach these families because they are mingling with our children and we are all here together. And I think that's something that we really don't talk about. When English learning is second, we have to find ways to reach out to those parents.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. Touring the different schools, the elementary schools, I see how important ELL is in visiting with different ELL teachers. It's amazing that they can bring them up, that they can learn a new language and they can be taught. It's inspiring to watch and to hear them being taught. So that is one particular program that I think we really do well with in our elementary schools, making parents feel welcome and the students feel welcome in our country, in our community, and in our school district, that we can still offer the education, the quality education here with our teachers that teach ELL.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Warton.
So school safety and safety throughout, both for students and for teachers, is something that we haven't spent a ton of time this evening talking about. And I think there's a couple of different pieces, whether we're looking at the SRO folks and what the ratio is of SROs to students, whether it's technology, the use of technology. I know vaping in the bathroom, I hear about this all the time, right? Vape detectors, and there's different pieces of technology that we can use, and I've got some background in that. There's a piece of legislation that the House is considering in terms of providing immunity for teachers if they defend themselves or help defend another student. Because right now there's a lot of liability that can kind of circle around a teacher trying to do what the right thing to do. That any of us on the street, if they saw someone being accosted, would step in. But they have that thing in the back of their head that says, I might get sued or whatever the case is. So I think those sorts of topics from a school safety perspective are vital to consider as well. Thank you.
Mr. Sparks.
Well, I've been endorsed by the NEA, and that's because I have been and will continue to be pro-teachers. What we haven't talked about is our bus drivers. We haven't talked about our custodians. We haven't talked about our nutrition service workers. We haven't talked about all the individuals that truly make up the student experience every single day. And so I want to tell you, I'm here as a board member, not just for teachers, not just for our students, but for everyone that has to create this experience that every kid gets to come to school with and then go back home with. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our question and answer portion of the evening. Well done, candidates. Now each candidate will have an opportunity to present closing remarks. Please limit your remarks to 1 minute. We will reverse the order used during opening remarks. So we'll begin with Mr. Matt Warton.
Well, I want to say thank you to everyone that took the time to be here tonight to listen to all of us and to be intent. And it's been an enjoyable process. And so I just want to tell you that while I do come from outside the education world, there's a lot that I don't know. But my commitment to you is that I 100% will spend time to understand the things I don't know, listen to experts, get feedback, learn, change my mind, right? But ultimately that I'm gonna bring an outside perspective. I've got a long track record and history of leadership and engaging in a thoughtful process to lead organizations and produce results in the private sector. And so I believe I can bring that experience to bear for the benefit of the district, for the staff, for the students of our schools. And that's what I'm here for, and I'm excited to be a part of that if you choose to elect me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodrick Sparks.
Again, I'd like to thank the Chamber for giving this opportunity for us to be able to share with you on this evening. and everyone that's been able to hear our answers to the questions that have been brought forth. On April 7th, it's going to be a decision made. And the decision that you will have to make as a voter is, what direction do you want to see this district go in? Do you want to see this district be a district that continues to support those individuals that actually are the foundation of LSR-7, which is our staff? Do you want to support a district that, with board members that actually care about every single one of our students, regardless of what background they come from, what is their economic status, or what do they look like? Are you willing to make a decision on April the 7th that of board members that have actually done the work, that continue to show up, or will you decide to do something different? I appreciate your support on April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Erica Miller.
Well, thank you again to all of you for spending the evening with us. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting another incredible forum. I want to tell you that 3 years ago, I had no idea what I was getting into. But I stand before you today just to let you know how much I've loved this work. I love this work, and I am committed and excited to continue to lead with what I want to create. And what I want to create is an environment where every student feels like they belong. It's an environment where each and every student has the resources that they need to be successful. It's an environment where our teachers and our staff feel valued, heard, and listened to. And it's an environment where our community and our parents are walking alongside us to support everything we're doing in our district. So I want to lead with passion, lead with heart, and continue to pour into this community that I'm proud to call home for myself and for my kids.
Thank you. Dr. Kamile Johnson.
So thank you for the chamber, and thank you to the audience for being here in person and virtually. I am here for a second time because I do truly enjoy working with the community. I enjoy working with those who are taking care of my children and everyone else's children. And what I do expect, I expect that I'm going to continue to be thoughtful with my decision making. I'm going to consider facts, but I'm also going to have the emotional intelligence to know that everything is not just about the numbers. I am a lifelong learner, and there are still things that I could learn and I can do, but I'm coming to this board once again with knowledge. I'm coming to this board with experience of showing I can make good decisions. Also, I believe that education is a right, the same way I believe that healthcare is a right. And so I'm going to continue to participate in these places so that we can ensure that all students have access to these things. So I am asking for your vote on April 7th, and I am voting yes on Prop C. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Regina Garrett.
Thank you. My name is Regina Garrett, and I'm up for re-election on April 7th, and I'm asking for your vote. I have traveled to Jefferson City to fight for our funding and stood before the Jackson County Legislature and spoke about the landfill and was telling them that it should not happen. It was too close to our elementary schools and our residents. I am a seasoned advocate ready to continue putting our students, teachers, and taxpayers first. And things that I want to focus on in my second term, of course, is literacy. I believe it's so important, and it's going to open so many doors for those students that are struggling. They deserve that. I will focus on fiscal stewardship and a culture of safety for our students and our teachers and our staff, and offer transparent engagement. So when we have our dialogues, when we ask questions about contracts that we're signing, I will do that, and I will be a voice for those in our district who care about our fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you all. Please thank each candidate for being with us this evening and participating in tonight's forum. We also appreciate the University of Central Missouri and Missouri Innovation Campus for the wonderful facilities and hospitality. Finally, our sincere thanks this evening's sponsors in partnership with the Chamber: Life Goal Strategies Group, Rodney Loesch, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, St. Luke's Health System, and Tingle Flooring. And to our live audience, we appreciate you attending this evening. Your engagement and interest in this being a part of this important and worthwhile process is critically important. The Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce has done its part by introducing each school board candidate to our community. Now we ask that you do your part and exercise your right to vote on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Have a safe evening. Thank you.
I was in a meeting with Jennifer Craig, who's the CEO of Rediscover the other day. Okay. And they are putting mental health professionals in the schools. Okay. The school doesn't have to pay for it, they're doing it.